Alright, this is going to be a quick video on modifying the coaster design to make it more personalized. Put your last name in there, your initials. I'll talk a little bit about that, and then I'll talk about generating the code here. So the first thing you obviously need to do is launch Mastercam on your desktop. Once you get that open, go up here, say open. And you're going to find in the ThoughtSpace folder on the desktops at East, we have this file. It's called Student Coaster Template 3x3. It might be located on your desktop, but you have to find this file. It's a template file. That's what you're going to start with. Make sure you open that. So it's going to look like originally when you open it. So right click in the workspace and just say fit, and it's going to bring everything into the window so you can see what you're dealing with. And here it is. It's the template of the coaster design. So the first thing we're going to do in here to get going is change the levels. So click down here in the bottom left, change levels. All right, so I just selected the levels. The first thing we're going to do here, once we're in that levels window, is we're going to select the entire design. Okay, I'm going to right click, and this is probably the most important thing. Make sure you set Z0. If you don't set Z0, it's going to crash, plunge the tool to -0.2, which is almost 1/4 of an inch, and then as soon as it tries to move one way or the other, it's going to snap that tool. So Z0, once you're at Z0, go ahead and click this change level. Make sure copy is selected, unselect use active level, and then you can name this any number like 10, anything but what's on there already. So, 10, 3, 4, 6, and then put your name in there. I'm just going to put student name, and then I'm going to click check. And then I'm going to go back to the toolpath. So on the bottom left hand here, we're going to kind of go back to what we were looking at the beginning. I'm going to click this squiggly line here, and this toggles the toolpath on and off, and that's what you see is the toolpath when you click on that. So I'm going to turn the toolpath off, and this is a good time to do a file save as, so you're not overwriting the template. So just go to up here, file, save as, save it on your desktop and your ThoughtSpace, wherever you need to save it. I'm going to save it on my desktop. I have a little different setup than you guys probably do, but find a place to save it. Thumb drive works too if you have a thumb drive. I have a folder on my desktop. I'm going to just call this video example. Save. I'll replace it. So I got this here. We've got a new level that we created. All right. And if you go back here, you can see that's our new level. It's called student names. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make that level active. So I'm going to select it to the check marks by it, and then I'm going to click off this X, and then I'm going to go back to that toolpath. So now we're kind of ready to start modifying this now that we have created the new level. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this coaster here, and you can see it shows us all the toolpaths. I'm going to click one more time, and it lets me modify the name. So I'm going to just say coaster original. And what I'm going to do is once I have named that coaster original, I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to say groups, new toolpath group. Okay, and you'll see it brings this new toolpath group down here. I'm going to go ahead and modify that right there. I'm going to call this student name. All right, and this is my new toolpath group, student name. All right, so what we need to do is we actually need to modify our design. So what I'm going to do is on this anvil and hammer here, I'm actually going to say right click, I'm going to say copy. Down here, I'm going to say paste. And it's going to paste that toolpath down below. All right, and I'm going to drag my arrow up there. Now, once I've got this toolpath down here, I'm going to click on those squiggly marks to get rid of that toolpath because I don't really want to see it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the text in here, not selecting the outline, just the text, and I'm going to delete it. Okay. So one thing we can do is we can change the name of this. We can call this like student name. And I'm going to go ahead and expand that again. And you can see that toolpath is still in there. It's not the end of the world. That's fine because we're going to regenerate a new toolpath in a minute. But what we want to do is just toggle that off so it's not in our way. Then we're going to go up here to the top and we're going to do a wireframe drawing. I'm going to use one line here. Okay, and I'm going to draw a line, and this is why we didn't want to delete our frame. I'm going to draw a line from corner to corner, diagonally across. Okay, once I've drawn that line, I'm going to say good and click that green check mark. All right, the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to put in some text. So I'm going to scroll out a little bit so I have a little room to work here. We're going to throw some text in here. So I'm going to say create letters. Once again, I'm in wireframe at the top, and I'm just going to put my last name in there. All capitals seems to work well. And I'm going to go ahead and change this right away to a 1/2 inch height, and then I'm going to just place it out here in space. So this is blue right now. It means we can still modify it. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to space it out a little bit more. So I'm going to go with 0.2 on my spacing, and then I'm going to change the type of font. Now it's really important that you understand what we're dealing with here as an engraving tool. We're using a ball end mill, so if we did something like Old English like this, that end mill is going to have a really hard time doing a quality engraving of this font. So you want to choose something that's kind of blocky in nature. So I choose this Dayville. This seems to work pretty good. Once I'm happy with the size of my text, and once again, if you have a super long last name, maybe just your first and last initial here would be good. This is where we can say we're happy with it. Click OK. So I'm going to click OK. All right, so we have our text and we have our coaster outline. Now we need to bring the text in. So we're going to go up here to transform. We're going to say dynamic. And we're going to window pick this entire text. I'm going to say end selection. And then I'm going to choose where I want to grab and move the text from. And I'm going to click here in the middle. And then I'm able to click and drag. And I can put this right in the middle of this line. See how it snaps to the middle of that line? I'm going to click. I'm going to set it right there. And as soon as I'm happy with my placement, I'm going to do the green X. I'm going to say OK. And then we can go in here and we can get rid of this line. Click on the line, hit delete. So there we have our text. Now, you could also mess around if you wanted to draw something with the wireframe. You could use the line tool as well. Right now, I'm just sticking with the text. So once we have that, now we need to generate a toolpath for this. Okay, so if you look at this, basically what we're going to do here is we're going to come over here to the student name one. We're going to click on this and we're going to say geometry. We're going to click on our geometry, and you see that we have the anvil, as I was stating before. We want to get rid of that. So in this white area right here, we're just going to right click and we're going to say rechain all. So I'm going to say rechain all, and you'll notice that that anvil then disappears. You want to select this window and then you want to pick your text. It's going to take a second, and then click check. It's going to ask for a start point. I'm just going to do the bottom or the top left, and then you can see it generates that new toolpath, and then you can click check. Now we've got our toolpath, and away we go. All right, so we have now generated the toolpath, but it is a dirty operation down here. So what we need to do is we actually need to make sure we regenerate that. So clicking on this green arrow here will regenerate that toolpath. Once we've regenerated the toolpath, we need to go into the parameters. And we want to click on tool parameters. And you can see right here, our spindle speed right now is set at 17,000. That's beyond the capability of our mill. So we want to change this to 5,000. and we're going to click the green check. So now we've gone through, we've modified our parameters, we've modified our geometry, and we've regenerated our toolpath. The end mill is the same that we were going to use for the template, so there's no need to go in and modify that. We also are going to stop at this point before we generate our code. We're going to verify that our Z is 0. And another way we can do that is we can actually show that toolpath, and we can click our scroll wheel and move this up and see if we're going to be engraving on the top of that piece. And yes, indeed we are. So I'll right click, I'll say top, and then we're back to where we were. Another nice feature with this program is the ability to check or verify our program. So I'm going to go ahead and click verify. It's right up here in the toolpaths quick menu. And it's going to load the verify the program essentially, and we're going to be able to look at that. So once it loads this program, it's a preview window. Right click in here and say isometric. It's going to bring our piece around, and this is essentially a simulation. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this. I'm going to take and click on this tool component. I'm going to turn my tool holder off because we don't need that in the way. And then I'm just going to hit play. And that looks correct to me. So I have verified that. Now I'm going to generate my code. So in order to generate the code, we're just going to click on this G1 here. Go ahead and click OK. And it's going to say, well, you have some things that aren't generated, and that's all the stuff from the template. And we're going to say, no, we don't want to generate that code. And then you're going to save this in the same place that you've saved your Mastercam drawing. So I'm going to call this student name, and we'll just say 1. Save. It's going to generate the NC code, and we're going to be able to modify that code. All right, so it generates this NC code. A couple of things that you want to make sure you do. The first thing you're going to want to do is click right up here atop the tooling, go all the way up to the top line. We can delete all of that information. The next thing we need to delete is the M6, line 7 there. And on line 9, we want to delete this H9, which is a Haas code, and G43. Once we have deleted those, we want to give our program a number. So I'll just call this number 1, and then we want to do a save. At this point, we should be able to insert a jump drive. Make sure we transfer this file to that drive, and we should be able to load this in the benchtop mill and execute our coasters.